Okay, it's the fourth week of Advent, and the candle of invitation is to be lit. And I'm in this inviting space. I got the nice Christmas tree behind me. And I'm going to be reading from the NET Bible, the New English Translation. It's got all these footnotes. I'm going to show you this tiny little verse we're going to read, and then I'm going to make up a lot of stuff and just think about this humble birthplace of Jesus. So I got a couple notes here and yada, yada, yada. So it comes time to be registered, and they're mandated to go to Bethlehem. That's Joseph and Mary mandated to go to Bethlehem. We're in Luke 2:5. He went to be registered with Mary. That's Joseph, who was promised in marriage to him. Now, the promise in marriage makes me think of, everything seems to me to echo that the same stories are told again and again. Jesus has a promise of marriage to the church. And there are these things that happen that we understand the real life implications. It really Jesus fits in our world in strange ways. While they were there, Mary was promised in marriage to him, and who was expecting a child. Mary was expecting, and I think, well on her way. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. We don't know how long they had to stay for this registration process. But however long it was, they traveled. She was very pregnant. They stayed for some time. She gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. Now, this translation, the New English Translation, the NIV I read the other day, said there was no guest room available, something like that. And there's a discussion right here. It talks about, in the footnotes, it talks about no place for them in the inn. There's some disagreement of whether this would be a room that a relative would have, and it's not a guest room. They had to go in a lower section that contained animals because there was a feeding trough. Or was it no room? Was it a place of lodging in the public accommodation in the city, or was it a home of relatives? So, the debate goes on. Everyone now is saying, no, it's a guest room, probably with relatives. I don't really care. Don't care that much. Whatever it was, Jesus is born and wrapped and placed in a manger. And I talked to some kids today, release time, the third graders, asked them what they thought a manger was. They did not know. Asked them a couple questions. They knew it was Christmas. They knew it was Jesus' birth to be celebrated. So it's a feeding trough. So you start speculating, filling in a lot of blanks. And one of the things we wanted to talk about, we discussed whether we would talk about the innkeeper. And I'm going to get into this space of invitation into a place where cattle are lowing. They didn't know what lowing was either. I'm not sure if I know. I think they were mooing, gently mooing. I don't have any idea. I believe Jesus did cry, though. No crying he made. I think he cried. That's my view of Jesus, fully God and fully man, fully baby. Okay, so they laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. Okay, so invitation. I think about if you're inviting, and it makes me think of commercials, I'll leave a light on for you. The idea that if you have some guests coming over, you leave a light on. You leave the door unlocked. You leave a light on so that the guests feel like your place is approachable. They don't want to come up to a door where they seem to be vandals and have to break in. So you leave a light on. You're expecting someone. And even the idea that Mary is expecting, all these words in the English language that spin around and tell this remarkable story. Door is unlocked, the light is on. So they're in some kind of common area, and I think the area, I would speculate, because now we get into speculation. We have virtually, let me even read these little notes. The note for, there was no place for them in the inn. There's no drama in how this is told. Everything that we understand about the inn, there's no search for a variety of places to stay or a heartless innkeeper. Such items are later non-biblical embellishments. And so much of our stories, we embellish the story because we're given pretty sketchy details. Bethlehem was not large, and there was simply no other place to stay. The humble surroundings of the birth are ironic in view of the birth's significance. I thought about that as well. So we'll get into this idea of invitation and where Jesus is born. How inviting is it? I'll tell you what else they were expecting. They had troughs for feeding animals. They were expecting animals. So the invitation is laid out for animals to approach. How inviting isn't a place where animals, it's a common workplace where they might milk the cows, feed the cows. Maybe, I don't know what all they would do there. Maybe it's just for feeding. We have to speculate. So how inviting is an animal work area? Well, I'll tell you, there are very low expectations for comfort. You go in there and it might be comfortable for a cow or a lamb. It isn't set up to accommodate an expecting mother who is giving birth. Now, would Jesus be welcomed there? If you leave the light on, someone is welcomed. Is the King of all creation welcomed there? Well, I'll tell you what, there's no one keeping him out. The cattle don't mind his presence. The shepherds don't mind his presence. How welcoming is it? I think there's no sense that he's inconveniencing anyone. That's kind of the way I'm going to go. He's not an inconvenience. Where would Jesus not be welcome? Or where would a birth be unpleasant? This humble birth, this wild thing that's having a baby. Where would he not be welcome? I think he would not be welcome where there are expectations of comfort. We put birthing mothers, we don't want to do it in a taxi cab or in the kitchen. We want to get into a sterile place where it's very easy for the workers to accomplish this task. You don't rush an expecting mom into the country club. The country club, I think, would be very unwelcoming. Or if you knew your wife was giving birth, so you ran to a hotel, threw her on the bed, and the manager's like, I would rather you go somewhere else to do this. I think the strange thing of this invitation is, like all invitations in this world, the common folk who have very low expectations of comfort find welcoming easy in some way. And not, this is a generalization. But if you go to a gated estate, you're going to find your welcome. It isn't easy. They aren't leaving a light on for you. They're locking you out. The idea that if you are in great need, that you could go to a humble place and you would be welcomed. It would not only be exciting for them, maybe they would turn off the TV and let someone come in and give birth on that, on the kitchen floor. The humble, the poor, the downtrodden, the Sermon on the Mount people. There's some sense that if your expectations are low, if you're humble, if you struggle, you're more welcoming. So for Jesus to be born in this humble estate, I think he's so welcome in these lowly places. So that's the meditation. It's getting a little long, 10 minutes. But as you welcome Jesus, I think getting into that humble estate, that's the place where he looks for an easy welcome. He's not looking for comforts. It's like when they were talking about John the Baptist. What do you go out into the wilderness to see? You don't expect a fancy dinner, a man in a tuxedo. Jesus didn't come in the world to be given some kind of extravagant care. He wanted to get down and dirty into the difficult places. And the people there welcomed him. What does that tell you? I don't know. Meditate on it in your heart. This Advent season, it's a wonderful time to think about the gift of a Savior born in the humblest estate. God bless you this Advent.